Hey everybody, it's Chasm here. Today I've got a new theory for you. I want to share some thoughts and connections I've made from the Union Cross update earlier this month. Let's discuss a possible relationship between Ventus and the entity known as Darkness. First, shout out to KH Insider. You're going to be seeing clips and images of the translated version of the update provided by their YouTube channel. I suggest you go check that out if you haven't already. Link to their channel in the description below. So the previous update revealed to us that Ventus is officially the false Union leader. However, Brain and Ephemer explained that they believe Ventus was entirely unwise of this, and he had nothing to do with the switcheroo. Now with the most recent update, it's being indicated that Ventus in fact probably is ignorant of the situation. However, that doesn't mean he wasn't involved in some way. We learned that Ventus was in the same room as Strelitzia at the time that she died. He claims that Ava told him to meet her in that room, and after he walked in, he turned around and saw Strelitzia. But he has some sort of memory issue going on. He doesn't remember what happened between the time he saw Strelitzia and the time that he left the building with Ava. So that's just a simple recap of the events as told by Ventus. Now, I want to explain to you guys my theory, that Darkness is responsible for Strelitzia's murder, because Darkness possessed Ventus's body while at the house and killed Strelitzia using Ventus as a vessel. Let's dive in. So there's something that I've been pondering very hard since a few updates ago, and this most recent update flipped the switch for me. I'm talking about something that Luciu wrote in the secret report number 11 from KH3. He wrote, "The virus has begun a strange undertaking, a reckless plot to allow the Five to escape into another world line." For a while now, I've been consciously thinking about that line. That insight just felt so important. Whoever is the imposter is the one who will spearhead the event that leads to changing world lines. Okay, so 3 story updates ago was when we really started to feel that Ventus would soon be revealed to be the false leader, which he was. That's when I really started thinking about that excerpt from the secret reports. I had a hard time believing that it's Ventus who takes the initiative of changing world lines. He's been established to be very go with the flow. He has never really had much to offer as a leader. He kinda just agrees or disagrees with what other leaders are saying. Overall, he's just pretty shy and confused. It would feel very out of place for him to not only come up with the idea of finding a new world line, but also be the person figuring out how to find it and how to get there. So then the next update came out, and we find out that Ventus is the false leader. That means Ventus is the person who will take charge of escaping to a new world line. Now, the most recent update has got me thinking even harder. Let's read some more of that secret report. "The virus has begun a strange undertaking, a reckless plot to allow the Five to escape into another world line. Surely such a thing can't be possible. We're talking about the same trick that allowed the Dandelions to transfer to other world lines after the Keyblade War. But these children are no masters. They haven't the means. Unless, of course, a certain lady of magic summoned here from the future knows more than I do." So ever since reading this in KH3, we have known that somehow Luciu knew who Maleficent was even back in the Age of Fairy Tales when she got stuck there. Luciu implies that perhaps Maleficent somehow aided the leaders in their quest for a new world line, but I don't think that's true. Because at the very end of the most recent update, Maleficent seems to have escaped back to her time. Take a look at the final shot. We see Laurium on the floor and there is a busted vessel. But you might have missed this detail. There's a vessel that's straight up missing. So what this means is that Maleficent escaped and Laurium then tried to use a vessel of his own, which for some reason resulted in what we see here. Short interlude here. This creates an even stronger connection to the arc we see in KH1. That one only had 5 vessels, and the one in Union Cross had 7. But now, that one is missing 1 vessel and 1 is broken, leaving 5. Coincidence? Let me know if you have any thoughts about that in the comment section. Back on track now. I don't think Maleficent actually assisted the Dandelions like Luciu suspects. However, everything Maleficent has learned about world lines since she arrived here in the Age of Fairy Tales, she learned from Darkness. And Darkness even told Maleficent that there was a distinct purpose for trapping her here in the first place. It was so that once she goes back to her own time, her memories of the people here could be used as a marker so that they could travel to her time, which exists inside a different world line than Daybreak Town. So you're trying to tell me that after Maleficent returns to her time, Ventus suddenly puts his big boy pants on and says, "Hey, I'm gonna find a way for us to escape to a new world line," which just so happens to be exactly what Darkness wants them to do. No, I'm telling you there's something fishy there. I have no doubt in my mind that when Ventus begins the strange undertaking as stated by Luciu, it's because Darkness has possession of Ventus at that time. But wait, Chasm, I thought this was going to be about murdering Strelitzia. Do you mean to say that Darkness had possession of Ventus ever since that moment? Well, no, of course not. Darkness wouldn't be able to meet with Maleficent if that were the case, but I am ready to lay out the evidence that Strelitzia's murder was only the first time that Darkness possessed Ventus. First things first, we know that the power of Darkness, not the character, can be used to shape one's appearance. It has also been said, and even more so shown, that Darkness can take many forms. I believe that Darkness, the character, has presented themselves to Ventus disguised as Master Ava. Brain even says so himself that someone must have impersonated Ava. What's more, when Ephemer asks who it could have been, Brain answers with a rhetorical question. Who or what would want us to fail our mission of protecting the light? Ephemer simply answers, Darkness. So what really happened that day in that house? I think it went something like this. As Ventus said, he was instructed to meet quote-unquote Ava at the house. Darkness arrives at the house before Ventus, but when Ventus goes inside and calls for Ava, Darkness waits in the shadows and bides their time. Then Strelitzia walks into the house. Ventus turns around and sees her for a brief moment before Darkness makes their move and possesses Ventus. Now, using Ventus's body, Darkness strikes Strelitzia, grabs the book, and waits for Strelitzia to fade away. That is when Darkness releases themselves from Ventus. While taking the appearance of Ava, Ventus is probably in a little bit of a daze and just sort of thinks to himself, Ava's here. Then, Darkness leads Ventus to the bridge and anoints him as a Union leader. As I had mentioned, Ventus says that there is a gap in his memory from the time that he sees Strelitzia to the time that he left the house with Ava, but there's an interesting observation to be made. Earlier on, Ventus explicitly mentions Ava giving him a rulebook, but we see in the flashback that Ventus is already holding the book when they leave the house. So how does he remember her handing him the book? This makes me think the memory loss is a little more complicated than what Ventus says, but I do believe there is a chunk of time Ventus doesn't remember. But whereas Ventus describes it to be between seeing Strelitzia and leaving the house with Ava, I think it's actually between the time that Darkness possesses Ven and then unpossesses him, at which point they immediately start walking to the bridge, and Ven already had the book in hand from when Darkness used Ven to murder Strelitzia. Alright, so it's easy to simply make the claim that Darkness possessing Ventus would cause a gap in his memory. But can I back that claim up with any evidence? Actually, I think I can. But first, you have to accept another theory that's floating around the fandom to be true, which is the idea that Darkness is the entity that will go on to become Vanitas. So what does Vanitas being Darkness have to do with the gap in Ventus's memory? I'll tell you. We know that at some point in the Age of Fairy Tales, Ventus, Laurium, Elrena, and some woman who comes to be called Subject X get sent far forward into the future and they all lose their past memories. Remember what I had explained earlier in the video? The reason Luciu observes Ventus trying to escape to a new world line is because Darkness is in possession of Ventus at that time, and for Ventus, this escape takes form in the way of time travel, most likely by getting the arc to work properly. So let's assume that when Ventus time travels, Darkness is still within him. I believe that when Ven wakes up in the future, the crazy forces of time traveling through the arc not only rob Ventus of his memories, but also rendered Darkness into dormancy, still there inside of Ventus, but no longer in control. Next, Ventus gets taken on as Xehanort's student, and as we all know, eventually Xehanort extracts the darkness from Ventus's heart in humanoid form and names it Vanitas. And what condition did that leave Ventus in? Oh yeah, he loses his memories again. Why? Because Vanitas is darkness, and darkness has been inside of Ventus since before he time traveled and got amnesia. It's just like Strelitzia's murder. He was possessed, did the deed, and then was no longer possessed, so he doesn't remember doing the killing. I want to solidify the connection of Ventus, Darkness, and Vanitas by taking a look at what we hear Vanitas say in Remind. Vanitas asks Ventus, "Don't you have any love at all for your brother?" Ventus replies, "We're not brothers, we're the same." And this is what Vanitas has to say about that idea.
You believe that? Then you really are naive. Huh? This may shock you, but we're not the same like you think. I was just hidden deep inside of you for a really long time. All Xehanort did was tear me right out of you.
Y'all, come on. That's it right there. Vanitas is Darkness. He's laughing at the fact that Ventus thinks Vanitas is actually a part of him, because it's not true. To Vanitas, Ventus is just a vessel, and he wants that vessel back. Now let's look at another scene from Remind when Sora is in Ventus's Station of Awakening.
What? Who are you? Darkness? Vanitas?
So here's the thing. Even before Remind, we've all been thinking that Vanitas might be Darkness, and I had been open to the idea. But I've got to tell you, in this scene, when Sora says, "Darkness? Vanitas?" my reaction to that was, oh wow, that was a really crappy red herring, and Vanitas definitely is not Darkness. But now that I've connected all these dots that I've shared in this video, I think this whole ordeal would actually be too elaborate of a red herring. And if it turns out to be wrong, I'll be pretty angry. So anyway, my friends, that is why I believe that Darkness murdered Strelitzia while possessing Ventus, and I believe Darkness is the same character that we now call Vanitas. But I want to hear what you think of this. Are you convinced or not so much? Is there anything you'd like to add or interject on? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you'd give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, I've made a Twitter page. I hope you'll follow me in order to stay updated on videos and discuss Kingdom Hearts. Link in the description. Make sure to check out my other uploads. You might like my theory about what Yozora really looks like, or my video ranking the 13 best Kingdom Hearts characters. Let me know what Kingdom Hearts topics you'd like me to cover in the future. Until the next video, I'm Chasm, and thanks for watching.